Returning to his ancestral estate, a wealthy heir discovers an injured young woman in the woods, a meeting that will change his life forever. The mysterious woman, unable to remember her past, carries secrets powerful enough to destroy everything he once believed true. By saving her life, he becomes unintentionally entangled in an ancient secret hidden deep underground. The young woman holds the key to a mystery powerful enemies would kill to possess, stopping at nothing. He attempts to unravel the connection between the woman and his own family, unaware of how dangerous this revelation will become. To save the woman and his family, he must risk everything he holds dear. Stay tuned to discover how the story of the rescued stranger ends, and don't forget to subscribe. Many more thrilling tales await you. It had been 15 long years since Elijah Ashford last saw the gates of his family's ancestral estate, Willowmere Manor. Time and distance had buried memories beneath layers of dust and regret, but as his truck crested the final hill, those memories burst forth with unsettling clarity. He halted the vehicle at the estate's iron gates, now corroded by neglect and time, and felt a strange pulse, almost a heartbeat, resonating from somewhere deep within the sprawling grounds. Willowmere had always been more than land to the Ashfords. Generations had poured sweat and toil into the fertile soil, cultivating crops that made the family wealthy yet subtly isolated. Elijah had fled that legacy years ago, determined to escape the shadow of his domineering father, Samuel Ashford. But now, with Samuel gone, the responsibility had inevitably passed to him. Elijah's gaze lingered over the rust-streaked metal, feeling a weight descend upon him as if invisible hands pressed against his shoulders, urging him forward. As Elijah drove through the gates, the countryside unfolded before him, vast expanses of gently swaying crops illuminated by the dying embers of the setting sun. It was late autumn, and the fields that had once whispered promises of prosperity now lay silent, cloaked in the golden haze of twilight. The sight brought forth a tidal wave of nostalgia, recalling days when his mother, gentle Eleanor, had whispered tales beneath these very trees. But the tranquility masked something deeper, a subtle unease that tugged persistently at the corners of his consciousness. Parking near the old stone farmhouse, Elijah stepped out and inhaled deeply, absorbing the scent of earth and distant rain. The estate manager, Marcus Brennan, an old family ally who had weathered more storms on this land than Elijah could count, approached with measured steps. Though older now, Marcus remained strong, his eyes sharp with wisdom and unspoken questions. He greeted Elijah solemnly, the familiarity in his eyes tempered by an understanding of the circumstances that had brought him home. As they exchanged brief, quiet acknowledgments, Elijah's attention was suddenly seized by a distant figure on the edge of the cornfield. Curiosity swiftly turned to concern as the figure swayed, collapsing among the high stalks. Instinct took over, propelling Elijah across the uneven terrain until he reached her, an unconscious woman, drenched and trembling violently in the fading daylight. Elijah swiftly assessed her condition, his pulse quickening as he realized she was on the verge of death from exhaustion and exposure. Without hesitation, Elijah carried her back to the farmhouse, ignoring a lingering whisper of warning from the wind around him. Inside, illuminated by the muted glow of antique lamps, the woman's fragile condition became clearer. Her features were delicate yet marked by strain, and Elijah, though a stranger to her identity, felt compelled to help her recover. He instructed the housekeeper, Mrs. Winifred Lane, to call Dr. Calvin Roth, the trusted local physician who had served his family for decades. As the doctor assessed the mysterious woman, Elijah quietly pondered the twist of fate that had placed her in his path precisely upon his return. That night, unable to sleep, Elijah wandered through the familiar corridors of Willowmere Manor. Moonlight painted ethereal patterns upon walls lined with portraits of stern ancestors, each seemingly watching him pass judgment on his return. The scent of old books and wood polish brought his childhood vividly to life, evoking memories of whispered arguments between his parents behind closed doors, echoes of his father's harsh commands reverberating through the mansion's cavernous halls. He halted outside his father's study, a room he had never dared enter without permission as a child. A shiver ran through him as he noticed the slightly ajar door, an invitation or perhaps a challenge from beyond the grave. Stepping inside, Elijah found the room exactly as his father had left it, organized chaos, papers stacked with meticulous precision, and books aligned in perfect rows. At the center of the desk lay a letter bearing his name in his father's unmistakably precise handwriting. The envelope seemed to pulse in the darkness, an invitation or command he was not yet ready to confront. A sudden noise startled Elijah, a distant, almost imperceptible sound echoing from deep within the manor. Following the sound down a narrow hallway, Elijah noticed damp footprints glistening in the moonlight, leading from the main hall toward the grand staircase. The tracks were slight and fleeting, vanishing abruptly at the base of the stairs. Elijah stood there, heart racing in the eerie silence that followed, aware that he was not alone in this place burdened by secrets. With dawn came a fragile clarity. Elijah awoke restless, the night's mysteries still lingering heavily upon his mind. Over a simple breakfast served by Mary, the manor's caretaker, he learned that the woman from the cornfield had stabilized but still had not regained consciousness. Dr. Bennett, the town physician, confirmed exhaustion and severe hypothermia but expressed cautious optimism. Elijah, intrigued yet puzzled, vowed to uncover her identity and the reason behind her sudden appearance on his family's land. Later that morning, as Elijah carefully opened the envelope from his father, the contents provided more questions than answers. Samuel's letter explained a decades-old agreement binding the Ashfords to another local family, the Hargraves, whose lands bordered Willowmere to the east. Within the folds of aging parchment, Elijah discovered a key, a slender, intricate piece of gold etched with cryptic symbols matching those he vaguely recalled seeing carved on ancient oak trees in their orchards. Samuel's words urged Elijah to find and protect someone named Amelia Hargrave, emphasizing the promise that bound their families. Just as he was absorbing this revelation, news arrived from Sheriff Clark about an attack on Marcus Hargrave, the patriarch of the neighboring family. The assailant remained unidentified, but suspicion loomed heavily, linking the incident ominously to the Ashford family's recently revived ties. Elijah realized that his father's cryptic warnings about obligations and promises were part of a larger, more perilous narrative, weaving tighter with every passing moment. Evening descended rapidly upon Willowmere, accompanied by the rumbling promise of a summer storm. Elijah, distracted by troubling thoughts, ventured outside, crossing the property toward the orchards. As the sky darkened, rain poured heavily, turning the land into mud and shadow. Amid the tempest, he stumbled upon something unexpected, tracks in the mud, faint but deliberate, leading to an ancient oak known only from childhood adventures. There, beneath the tree's sprawling branches, Elijah made another startling discovery. An intricate carving of intertwined initials adorned the bark, initials he recognized immediately as belonging to himself and someone else. Beside it, freshly disturbed earth revealed something partially buried, glinting faintly through the mud. His pulse quickened with apprehension as he brushed the dirt away to reveal a small, antique key identical to one mentioned in his father's letter. But before he could grasp its meaning, a sharp cry echoed from the direction of the farmhouse, urgent and filled with fear. With adrenaline surging, Elijah raced toward the sound, driven by a growing sense of dread. Each step across the sodden fields brought him closer to unraveling a mystery that had lain dormant for generations, a mystery now awakened, demanding to be confronted. As lightning shattered the sky, he knew that his return to Willowmere Manor was not merely about inheritance or family legacy but a summons to fulfill a long-hidden destiny that could change everything he understood about his family's past and his own future. Elijah raced toward the farmhouse, mud splattering against his boots as wind whipped violently across the landscape. The anguished cry had ceased, swallowed now by the relentless storm, leaving behind only silence, thick, oppressive, and unsettling. His heartbeat drummed urgently, echoing louder than the distant thunder. Approaching the side entrance, Elijah found the door ajar, swinging slowly on strained hinges, its frame battered by the elements. Unease crawled beneath his skin, more intense than the cold rain seeping through his jacket. Inside, the hallway lay shrouded in darkness, the air thick with dampness and an oppressive silence that amplified every heartbeat. A dim glow emanated from the far end, casting faint, flickering shadows across worn wallpaper. He moved cautiously forward, each footfall echoing faintly, his senses heightened by anticipation. As Elijah rounded the corner, he spotted Sophia Hargrave seated on the kitchen floor, hands trembling as she clutched a photograph tightly against her chest, eyes wide with shock and fear. Beside her lay fragments of shattered glass, remnants of a broken frame now scattered across the floor like splintered ice. She turned toward him slowly, eyes wide, still clouded by confusion. Elijah stepped forward carefully, noticing the trembling of her fingers, the paleness of her features accentuated by the soft, amber lamplight. Gently, he knelt before her, noting the photograph among the glass shards, a faded black and white image of two children standing side by side, smiles youthful yet guarded. He recognized himself immediately, but the young girl at his side was unfamiliar. The initials carved in the old oak tree suddenly held new weight, linking his forgotten past to her unspoken memories. Their silent connection was disrupted by footsteps echoing sharply down the corridor. Marcus appeared moments later, breathing heavily, his eyes scanning the disarray with urgency. Recognizing the emotional gravity of the scene, he quietly moved to secure the doorway behind them. Elijah understood his manager's unspoken intention. Protection of their shared secret had always been Marcus's priority, a steadfast loyalty born from decades of quiet dedication to the Ashford family. Elijah guided Sophia to a worn velvet chair in the adjoining parlor, where muted portraits of former generations gazed sternly down from shadowed walls. As she sat, drawing a shaky breath, Elijah's mind returned to his father's letter, the promise that bound their families, hidden agreements that had driven wedges and formed fragile alliances across decades. He could sense Marcus's watchful gaze as he silently attended to the broken glass, careful not to disturb the atmosphere heavy with implications neither he nor Elijah fully understood. A sudden flash of memory jolted Elijah, vivid yet fleeting. A childhood afternoon beneath the ancient oak, the whispered laughter of children, an innocence that now felt distant, almost foreign. He recalled tracing the initials carved deeply into bark as his younger self had done, wondering who had been the keeper of those secret moments. Realization sparked softly. This farmhouse, Willowmere itself, was woven deeply into their histories, each secret etched into walls, earth, and hearts that had long forgotten them. Marcus softly cleared his throat, breaking the introspective silence. He handed Elijah a small folded note, yellowed and brittle from age. The handwriting was familiar yet distant, his father's neat script, precise yet hurried, as though written under duress. Elijah unfolded the paper cautiously, words emerging clearly despite the dim lighting: protect Willowmere, safeguard the legacy, and honor the promise, trust only those bearing the mark. Elijah instinctively glanced toward Sophia, whose eyes had settled on the note in his hand, recognition flickering subtly in her expression. She absent-mindedly touched her wrist, tracing the faint crescent-shaped birthmark that now seemed a beacon, calling them back to the responsibilities they'd both inherited. Elijah felt the weight of those responsibilities settle deeper within him, a mixture of dread and a quiet, determined resolve beginning to form. Later that evening, beneath the soft illumination of the study, Elijah and Marcus reviewed the documents left meticulously organized by Samuel. Pages outlined years of careful stewardship, agricultural improvements, soil tests, and an endless series of investments meant to protect Willowmere's hidden treasure. Elijah's father had always been distant, his motives enigmatic, yet each page clarified the depths of his commitment to preserving something greater than mere land or wealth. His father's stoicism had masked a lifetime dedicated to a legacy Elijah was only beginning to comprehend. As the storm outside relented, Marcus brought a fresh pot of coffee, settling quietly into the chair across from Elijah. Though their relationship had always been professional, the older man's presence was reassuring, a bridge between past loyalties and uncertain futures. Marcus was more than a manager, he was the keeper of quiet truths, custodian of memories Elijah had deliberately distanced himself from. Sophia rose slowly, moving to the large window overlooking Willowmere's orchards. Her gaze lingered over familiar yet altered landscapes, searching perhaps for the clarity of memory lost amidst trauma and confusion. Elijah sensed a delicate strength within her, masked by vulnerability but ready to emerge. He found himself quietly promising, not just to his father's memory but to Sophia herself, that he would protect whatever truths lay hidden beneath their feet. Nightfall brought temporary calm. Elijah retired to his room, sleep elusive beneath the weight of unanswered questions and unresolved pasts. His dreams tangled with vivid recollections of childhood afternoons spent exploring the lands, his mother's soft voice, his father's stern expectations, fragments of memory interwoven with impressions of Sophia's frightened eyes, Marcus's steady presence, and the unsettling truths they were only beginning to confront. With morning, daylight broke gently through curtains, spilling warmth across the wooden floors of his room. Elijah rose slowly, driven by an urge to confront the past directly. Descending quietly to the farmhouse kitchen, he found Sophia and Marcus already awake, engrossed in quiet, purposeful conversation. The air felt lighter yet charged with anticipation of decisions still unmade. Marcus had placed an old, detailed map of Willowmere and adjacent lands across the oak table, lines drawn by hands that had shaped generations before them. As Elijah approached, the map revealed itself as more than mere geography. It was a tapestry of family histories, boundaries marking both separation and unity. Marcus pointed to a shaded area near the orchard's edge, the ancient oak symbolizing the heart of the estate's deepest secrets. Elijah nodded quietly, absorbing the gravity of the moment as Sophia traced the contours of the hidden section, lands whose existence had been carefully concealed, now beckoning for exploration and understanding. Marcus handed Elijah a worn leather satchel, provisioned carefully for the journey they both knew was inevitable. A silent nod between them conveyed an understanding deeper than words, loyalty forged by shared purpose and unfolding revelations. Sophia stood silently at Elijah's side, determination visible in her quiet resolve. She had chosen to confront her fragmented past, knowing that their paths intertwined, bound by promises neither fully grasped but compelled nonetheless to fulfill. As they stepped from the warmth of the farmhouse into the fresh dawn, Elijah felt a surge of anticipation mingled with caution. Ahead lay answers that promised truths deeper and perhaps darker than either family had imagined. The legacy left by their ancestors, the land beneath their feet, the waters hidden in darkness, all called to them now, urging forward into the mysteries awaiting discovery. The morning sun pierced gently through a canopy of clouds, scattering a delicate glow across Willowmere's orchards. Elijah, Sophia, and Marcus began their careful journey, guided only by a weathered map and fragments of long-buried memories. Each step deeper into the estate's remote sections felt like moving backward through time itself, past orchards heavy with unripe fruit, through meadows where wildflowers bloomed defiantly despite the recent storm, and across fields once stilled by ancestors whose whispers lingered in the rustling leaves. Elijah led the trio down the familiar yet transformed trails, his mind caught between past and present, reflecting on countless summers spent exploring these grounds. He recognized landmarks that once seemed trivial, a weathered fence post, an overgrown path veiled by wildflowers, now imbued with significance he struggled to define. Sophia's presence beside him brought another layer of complexity, the threads of their shared histories intertwined more intricately with each passing moment. Sophia's eyes swept cautiously over their surroundings, searching for remnants of memories long suppressed. Her silence concealed turmoil as fragments emerged in fleeting flashes, her father's voice murmuring cryptic lessons, the sensation of earth beneath her childhood feet, and an intangible yet potent sense of duty toward the land. Her fingers unconsciously traced the birthmark at her wrist, connecting her to something she was just beginning to understand. Marcus moved a few paces behind, his gaze watchful and cautious, ever alert for disturbances in their surroundings. The estate manager, long familiar with the land's practicalities, seemed now attuned to a deeper current, as though the soil and trees spoke a language only he could fully interpret. Marcus had served the Ashfords faithfully, carrying secrets silently entrusted to him by Samuel years before. His role had evolved from simple caretaker to guardian of secrets, a mantle he wore with a quiet but unwavering dedication. Their trek brought them finally to a remote clearing overshadowed by the ancient oak, its sprawling limbs heavy with moss and age. Elijah approached slowly, feeling his pulse quicken as the carving of their intertwined initials came clearly into view, older than he remembered, yet distinctly preserved. Sophia paused beside him, her expression shifting with fragments of recognition. Marcus took his position at the clearing's edge, silently observing the surrounding woods for any signs of intrusion. The air around the tree grew still, heavy with anticipation, as Elijah knelt near the roots. There, half buried beneath the moss-covered earth, lay a small, weathered box. Sophia's breath hitched softly as Elijah lifted it gently from the soil, fingers brushing decades of decay from its surface. Carefully opening the rusted latch, he revealed a bundle of papers tightly bound in faded ribbon, accompanied by another golden key, identical to the one his father had left behind. Sophia's expression clouded with recognition, as though distant echoes whispered clearly in her mind. She reached instinctively for the key, her fingertips grazing its ornate surface, sparking a subtle energy that rippled outward through the air, briefly illuminating their surroundings with an ethereal glow. Marcus watched silently, witnessing evidence of legends passed down discreetly between estate workers, legends he had never fully believed, until now. Together, they unraveled the documents within, pages yellowed by time yet painstakingly preserved. They detailed a secret pact dating back nearly 2 centuries, revealing agreements between the Ashford and Hargrave families, bound by mutual oaths to protect the mysterious power hidden beneath Willowmere Manor and its neighboring lands. The records described the source beneath their properties, a natural phenomenon far more complex and delicate than any had imagined, capable of both profound healing and devastating harm if misused. Sophia studied the intricate sketches accompanying the documents, depicting a cavern beneath the estate grounds, eerily reminiscent of fragmented visions she'd glimpsed in dreams since childhood. As Elijah carefully turned each fragile page, he recognized handwriting belonging unmistakably to ancestors he'd only heard whispered about, men and women whose quiet sacrifices now spoke urgently from beyond the grave. Marcus, ever vigilant, scanned the dense woodland perimeter, noticing subtle disturbances, the faint snapping of twigs, the rustle of leaves betraying more than mere wildlife. His eyes narrowed, instincts sharpened from years of quiet vigilance, their presence had not gone unnoticed. Silently, he gestured Elijah to continue reviewing the documents as he moved cautiously to investigate, rifle resting comfortably but alertly at his shoulder. Hidden within the dense foliage, Marcus paused, breath held as he glimpsed movement, a shadowy figure swiftly retreating deeper into the woods. The fleeting glimpse was enough to confirm his suspicions. Someone, perhaps an associate of Caldwell, was tracking their every move, driven by the same hunger for the secrets they now sought to protect. Marcus returned silently, urgency etched in his features as he signaled the need to expedite their investigation. Recognizing the danger of lingering too long, Elijah carefully folded the documents back into the box, sealing it firmly. Sophia touched the ancient oak's bark once more, silently acknowledging its significance as guardian of secrets older than either family. They departed swiftly, retracing their steps toward Willowmere's farmhouse, the weight of discovery pressing heavily upon each of them. Back at the estate, the trio regrouped discreetly in the library, shielding their discovery from prying eyes and unseen threats. Sophia laid the documents upon the heavy oak table, spreading them out beneath the lamplight, allowing their implications to settle fully. Elijah paced thoughtfully, contemplating the revelations and dangers they now faced. He recognized that protecting the hidden source required understanding not only their own history but also the threats posed by outsiders aware of its existence. Marcus quietly suggested contacting Sheriff Holden, whose discretion and local influence could prove invaluable in securing the estate's boundaries against intruders. Elijah agreed, though his thoughts drifted briefly to the unsettling realization that trust was now a commodity carefully rationed, limited only to those whose allegiance remained unquestioned. Sophia, unsettled by revelations linking her family's fate intimately to Elijah's, struggled internally with the responsibility thrust upon her by circumstances she scarcely remembered. Her fragmented memories were beginning to coalesce, offering glimpses into a legacy of guardianship spanning generations, marked by sacrifice and silence. She questioned her readiness yet found strength in Elijah's unwavering resolve and Marcus's steadfast presence. Arriving later at the farmhouse, they discovered Sheriff Holden already waiting, his rugged features stern yet quietly reassuring. He listened carefully as Elijah and Marcus recounted events, adding sparse yet crucial context drawn from years serving the local community. Sophia spoke hesitantly, offering insights gleaned from dreams and memories resurfacing with unsettling clarity. Holden acknowledged their concerns gravely, assuring them discreet yet vigilant oversight as investigations unfolded. As evening cast shadows across Willowmere's grounds, Elijah found himself drawn again to the farmhouse window, gazing toward distant fields stretching beyond sight, fertile land hiding secrets of untold magnitude. He understood clearly now the depth of responsibility entrusted to him, not just as heir to Willowmere, but as guardian to something infinitely more profound. Sophia joined him quietly, her presence a comforting affirmation of shared purpose, both bound irrevocably by history, obligation, and destiny/n/n. Together they stood, absorbing the enormity of revelations, sensing the delicate balance between knowledge and secrecy, guardianship and vulnerability. The path forward promised complexity and challenge, each step fraught with peril yet illuminated by the hope of understanding their purpose in the tapestry woven by ancestors long past. Elijah felt a quiet determination awaken within him, shared silently with Sophia, strengthened by the echoes of promises forgotten yet now vividly restored/n/nas. Evening shadows fell across Willowmere. Elijah silently resolved that the Ashfords and Hargraves, linked by an ancient pact and mutual trust, would now stand united, ready to protect their legacy from threats known and unknown, poised to honor a promise that transcended mere inheritance, bound eternally to the sacred heart of their shared lands. The soft hum of night enveloped Willowmere as Elijah and Sophia stood silently by the farmhouse window, gazing toward fields bathed in the silver sheen of moonlight. The quietude belied the turmoil churning beneath the surface, a turbulence of revelations, whispered secrets, and shared burdens. Together, they contemplated the vastness of their intertwined destinies, woven intricately by past generations yet now resting fully upon their shoulders. Marcus had excused himself earlier, retreating to his quarters to quietly contemplate the day's events, leaving Elijah and Sophia in reflective solitude. With Sheriff Holden's assurances of heightened vigilance around the property, there remained at least a fragile sense of security. Yet Elijah knew this peace was fleeting, a mere breath between revelations. He understood that their work had just begun. The documents discovered beneath the ancient oak had only scratched the surface of truths long hidden beneath Willowmere's soil. Sophia stepped away, drawn instinctively toward the mantelpiece, her eyes settling upon a photograph she'd barely noticed before, a faded portrait of Elijah's great-aunt Abigail, a figure rarely spoken about in family tales. Abigail Ashford had been a quiet mystery, known mostly through vague whispers and fragmented mentions in letters Elijah's mother had carefully kept hidden. Sophia's breath caught slightly as she studied the image, recognizing unmistakably the crescent-shaped birthmark visible on the woman's wrist, a match to her own, now a constant reminder of her inheritance. Marcus entered softly, sensing the moment's delicacy. Quietly, he placed a tray bearing cups of steaming tea on the table, the subtle scent of herbs filling the room. He had been with the Ashford family long enough to understand when silence spoke louder than words. Watching Elijah and Sophia navigate their shared discovery was akin to witnessing history repeat itself, echoes of a past Marcus had glimpsed but never fully grasped. He knew better than to interrupt the quiet exchange. Instead, he withdrew unobtrusively, returning to the tasks that grounded Willowmere's daily existence. With Marcus's departure, Elijah gently motioned Sophia toward the ancient oak table at the room center, now covered in carefully arranged documents, photographs, and maps illuminated by the warm glow of the antique lamp. They resumed their careful examination, gradually piecing together fragments of narratives stretching back nearly 2 centuries. The intricate web connecting their families became increasingly evident, a silent agreement to protect a hidden source beneath the estate grounds, entrusted to guardians selected by birthright. As Sophia's fingertips traced faded lines across aged maps, Elijah studied a photograph of their fathers, Samuel Ashford and Marcus Hargrave, standing together beside a stone marker that lay at the heart of the estate's hidden sector. He had never before glimpsed such camaraderie between them. His father had always projected isolation, stoicism masking whatever emotional depths lay hidden within. But here, in this captured moment of fleeting unity, Elijah sensed the strength of their shared purpose, a legacy of guardianship they'd maintained quietly, steadfastly, until their final days. Hours passed unnoticed as Elijah and Sophia pored over journals and papers, discovering fragments of historical records that intertwined the destinies of Ashford and Hargrave families since the early 19th century. Detailed accounts hinted at the source's unique properties: waters infused with an unknown energy, capable of healing and restoration, yet also vulnerable to exploitation. The documents painted vivid portraits of ancestors who had dedicated their lives to protecting this secret, passing their charge silently through generations, only occasionally leaving cryptic hints for future keepers. Sophia's gaze fell again upon the yellowed sketch of the cavern discovered earlier. Tracing its contours with a fingertip, feeling drawn to its mysterious significance. Elijah studied her quietly, observing subtle shifts of emotion crossing her features: curiosity, uncertainty, and a determination he recognized mirrored in his own heart. It became clear to both that understanding their inheritance required delving deeper into this ancient cavern, confronting whatever truths lay waiting beneath Willomir's fertile surface. Determined to act swiftly, Elijah and Sophia resolved to explore the hidden cavern at dawn, aware of the risks yet compelled by necessity. Marcus, informed of their intentions, insisted on joining, his loyalty unwavering, experience indispensable. Preparations occupied the remainder of the night, provisions gathered carefully, flashlights and essential equipment packed alongside meticulous notes and sketches, each preparation reinforcing their commitment to uncovering Willomir's deepest secrets. Before dawn broke, the trio made their way silently through the dewy fields toward the hidden entrance marked clearly on Samuel's map. Mist hung gently over the earth, lending an ethereal quality to their journey. Upon arrival, Elijah knelt, clearing foliage to reveal a moss-covered stone slab etched faintly with symbols matching those from Sophia's recurring dreams. Together, they maneuvered it aside, revealing stone steps spiraling downward into darkness, a path neither knew existed until now, yet felt undeniably familiar. Descending cautiously, Elijah felt his pulse quicken, heightened by anticipation and trepidation in equal measure. The air grew cooler, heavier with moisture and tinged subtly with a fragrance both unfamiliar and deeply comforting. Sophia moved carefully beside him, breathing steady, eyes focused intently ahead. With each step downward, they descended into history, aware that the secrets they uncovered might forever alter their understanding of who they were, and who they might become. At last, the narrow path opened into a cavern that left them momentarily speechless. Crystalline formations glistened from every surface, refracting sunlight filtering gently from unseen crevices high above. At its center lay a tranquil pool, glowing faintly, illuminated by luminescent crystals embedded along its perimeter. Elijah approached cautiously, heart racing with awe, sensing the undeniable power that filled the space. Sophia knelt beside the luminous waters, gently touching the surface, immediately feeling a warmth course through her fingertips, resonating gently throughout her entire being. Marcus lingered at the cavern's entrance, watchful yet respectful of the sacred atmosphere. The discovery solidified legends whispered among generations of estate workers into undeniable truth: Willomir's source was real, a hidden gift entrusted to their families for protection, now vulnerable yet also rich with potential for positive transformation. Elijah and Sophia slowly rose, their gazes meeting with newfound clarity, unspoken understanding strengthening their bond. Each recognized the immense responsibility before them. Their ancestors had hidden this place to shield it from exploitation, but now, in a rapidly changing world, safeguarding such a gift demanded new strategies, deeper commitment, and unwavering courage. Together, they silently vowed to uphold their shared legacy, ensuring Willomir's hidden heart would remain protected, respected, and preserved, entrusting its secrets only to those whose intentions mirrored their own. Ascending slowly back into daylight, Elijah felt a sense of purpose solidify within him, clarity born from ancient wisdom entrusted by generations who had lived in quiet dedication. As they stepped back into the morning's light, Willowmere stretched before them, vibrant and alive, seemingly aware of their decision to embrace the roles destiny had prepared for them. The estate no longer felt burdened by unresolved secrets but buoyed by purpose, ready to confront any challenge ahead. Elijah glanced once more at Sophia, recognizing a quiet strength mirrored in his own resolve. They stood side by side, prepared not just to preserve the land, but to nurture it for the future generations destined to inherit this ancient promise, now fully theirs to protect. Morning sunlight filtered softly through lingering clouds, casting an amber haze upon Willomir's orchards, yet Elijah and Sophia saw none of this beauty as they ascended from the cavern. Their minds were heavy with newfound knowledge, senses still resonating with the cavern's mysterious energy. Marcus, maintaining a watchful silence, led the way, understanding without words that a profound shift had occurred within Elijah and Sophia, a shift deeper than mere awareness of the cavern's existence. It was an awakening to the purpose bound intrinsically to their bloodlines. Returning to the farmhouse felt surreal. Familiar surroundings suddenly seemed foreign, as if transformed overnight into a sanctuary charged with purpose. Sheriff Holden awaited their arrival at the farmhouse, leaning against his vehicle with a measured calmness that belied his anticipation. A brief nod exchanged between him and Marcus communicated a mutual understanding of the gravity of events unfolding at Willowmere. Inside, around the worn oak table, Elijah carefully laid out the ancient documents discovered beneath the oak. Sheriff Holden listened intently, eyes narrowed in contemplation as Elijah recounted the history buried within those fragile pages. Holden, a practical man accustomed to tangible evidence, could not ignore the conviction in Elijah's voice nor dismiss the earnest certainty reflected in Sophia's quiet determination. He acknowledged the importance of protecting the secret, agreeing to reinforce patrols around Willowmere while discreetly alerting trustworthy deputies. Sophia quietly moved to the fireplace mantel, thoughtfully studying faded photographs from decades past. Her gaze settled upon another image, a portrait of two young women, one bearing an unmistakable resemblance to herself. Her fingers brushed the frame softly, memory surfacing gently yet insistently. She recognized the second woman instantly from stories passed down quietly within her own family, her aunt, Isabel Hargrave, whose mysterious disappearance had haunted the community for years. Sophia felt the weight of connection more intensely, their intertwined fates extended far beyond mere coincidence. Elijah joined her, silently acknowledging the image. His heart quickened as he recognized the other woman as Catherine Ashford, his father's sister, whose mysterious disappearance had similarly haunted his family. Their mutual realization settled silently between them, underscoring the profound depth of family obligations entwined in mystery. Marcus, observing discreetly, understood that this discovery deepened their bond, pulling them inexorably toward truths hidden beneath the soil they walked upon daily. As evening settled softly across Willowmere, Elijah found solace momentarily within the manor's library. He pored over family archives, searching diligently for mentions of Catherine and Isabel, hoping fragments hidden within these records might illuminate their vanished relatives' fates. Sophia joined quietly, carrying a weathered journal that belonged to her father, its cover worn smooth from countless handlings. Her presence at his side felt comforting yet charged with uncertainty, as each turned page could reshape their understanding of their legacy. Hours passed unnoticed, interrupted only briefly by Marcus bearing meals neither felt inclined to eat. Sophia's eyes widened suddenly as she turned a yellowed page marked with her father's hurried handwriting, details outlining secret expeditions undertaken to protect the source's location, observations on its properties, and cryptic warnings of those who might exploit its potential. The final entry described his fears, referencing threats posed by unnamed individuals whose greed overshadowed reverence for the source. Elijah, absorbing each revelation alongside her, sensed a growing urgency to secure the cavern's safety before others discovered its hidden truths. Midnight brought another revelation as Elijah uncovered detailed correspondence hidden within his father's desk, a series of letters exchanged clandestinely between Samuel and Marcus Hargrave. These letters, though carefully veiled, revealed tensions arising from an outside threat. A group intent on exploiting Willowmere's secret for commercial profit. The correspondence referenced frequent intrusions, veiled threats, and a growing urgency to solidify protective measures that never fully materialized before Samuel's death. With sunrise approaching, Sheriff Holden returned, bearing troubling news. Colton Ross, an influential land developer known for aggressively acquiring properties in the area, had expressed sudden and inexplicable interest in both Willowmere and the neighboring Hargrave lands. Elijah's heart quickened with suspicion, recalling the figure Marcus had seen lurking near the orchard's edge. Ross's reputation preceded him, marking him as a dangerous adversary whose intentions likely extended far beyond simple acquisition. Elijah, Sophia, Marcus, and Sheriff Holden convened again, strategizing rapidly as dawn approached. Understanding the threat Ross posed, they planned an immediate response, beginning with enhanced security measures and carefully disseminating misinformation about the estate's supposed agricultural issues to deter further intrusion. Marcus's steadfast loyalty shone as he detailed strategies refined over decades of quietly managing estate affairs, becoming indispensable to their newfound mission. As morning broke softly over Willowmere, Elijah felt an acute awareness of the delicate balance between revelation and concealment. The estate had become more than mere inheritance, it was a sanctuary entrusted to their guardianship, its legacy carried not merely through blood but through deliberate acts of stewardship and sacrifice. Sophia, quietly resolute at his side, echoed Elijah's silent resolve, united by commitment stronger than mere familial ties. Their decisions would impact not only the present but future generations, requiring courage, wisdom, and vigilance. Throughout the following days, Elijah and Sophia worked tirelessly, guided by Marcus's careful oversight, crafting plans to safeguard their legacy. Sheriff Holden discreetly reinforced estate boundaries, ensuring any further intrusions by Ross or others would be swiftly addressed. The trio ventured daily into the cavern beneath Willowmere, meticulously cataloging its properties, discovering its limitations and potentials, understanding its secrets in intimate detail. Sophia increasingly felt attuned to the cavern, recognizing subtle shifts within its energy, sensing a connection forged through birthright and strengthened by purpose. Meanwhile, Elijah tirelessly studied agricultural innovations, envisioning a future where the source's gifts could nourish the land without exploitation. Marcus provided invaluable guidance, sharing knowledge gleaned from Samuel Ashford, whose silent dedication had prepared Elijah far more thoroughly than he had ever imagined. Sophia delved deeply into scientific journals, seeking understanding of the microbial life within the cavern's waters, recognizing that controlled, respectful utilization was essential to protecting Willowmere's hidden resource. Slowly, cautiously, their efforts transformed Willowmere's immediate surroundings. New irrigation systems quietly implemented under Marcus's watchful eye rejuvenated struggling crops, subtly improving yields without raising suspicion. Local farmers benefited from innovations carefully derived from their discreet research, fostering community goodwill that further insulated Willowmere from suspicion. Ross's threats remained persistent but distant, temporarily thwarted by quiet, diligent guardianship. One evening, beneath twilight's gentle descent, Elijah stood once more by the orchard's ancient oak, reflecting deeply on the weight of their inherited responsibilities. Sophia joined him quietly, their mutual silence eloquent, heavy with unspoken understandings and shared burdens. Together, they traced the weathered initials carved long ago, recognizing that their childhood bond had always hinted toward a shared destiny neither had anticipated but which they now willingly embraced. As night enveloped Willowmere once more, Elijah felt a profound sense of purpose settle within him, mingled with cautious hope. Beside him stood Sophia, a quiet yet resilient partner. Bound not only by legacy but by trust and purpose forged from shared trials and emerging truths. Together, beneath stars witnessing centuries of quiet stewardship, Elijah and Sophia resolved anew to honor promises made long before their births, promises deeply etched into soil, stone, and heartbeats echoing through generations, anchoring them firmly within Willowmere's enduring embrace. The days following the discovery of the cavern beneath Willowmere passed quietly yet purposefully, each sunrise unveiling new tasks requiring Elijah and Sophia's careful attention. Bound by the weight of their inherited responsibility, they grew accustomed to silent cooperation, their mutual determination an unspoken language refined through shared experiences. Marcus maintained constant vigilance, tirelessly overseeing daily operations while subtly reinforcing defenses against external threats. Sheriff Holden's regular presence lent discreet authority, deterring further intrusions from Colton Ross's menacing interests. Though outwardly serene, Willowmere vibrated subtly with quiet tension, every rustling leaf and passing shadow imbued with unspoken warnings. Elijah dedicated countless hours to studying agricultural techniques designed to conceal the source's presence beneath mundane efficiency, establishing layers of protection around their secret. Sophia, inspired by her father's notes, deepened her research into the cavern's unique microbial ecosystem, documenting carefully the delicate balance required for sustainable use without disturbing the source's inherent purity. Late one afternoon, amidst the tranquility of the farmhouse study, Marcus interrupted their meticulous preparations, quietly alerting Elijah and Sophia to unsettling news. Colton Ross had appeared once more, his interest intensifying into explicit demands for access to Willowmere's lands. Ross had petitioned local authorities under the guise of environmental assessment, exploiting his influence within the community to mask ulterior motives. Elijah exchanged a tense glance with Sophia, recognizing immediately the urgency of safeguarding their family's secret before Ross uncovered it. Marcus suggested that immediate legal precautions were essential, recommending trusted family attorney, Evelyn Chambers. Elijah and Sophia quickly agreed, aware that Evelyn's discretion and sharp intellect could offer critical protection against Ross's aggressive strategies. Chambers arrived at Willowmere early the following day, her calm confidence instantly reassuring Elijah. Reviewing the Ashford and Hargrave agreements, Evelyn swiftly outlined a comprehensive strategy involving conservation easements and protective covenants that would legally shield the cavern's entrance from any exploitation, disguising their true purpose behind layers of bureaucratic complexity. While Evelyn and Marcus refined these legal defenses, Elijah and Sophia once more descended into the cavern beneath Willowmere. They moved slowly, reverently through the luminous chamber, their familiarity with the source now deepened into a profound respect bordering on devotion. Sophia knelt by the water's edge, carefully drawing samples while Elijah meticulously documented conditions within the cavern, ensuring their understanding remained precise and thorough. Emerging later into the cool evening air, Elijah sensed immediately something amiss. Marcus awaited them anxiously at the cavern's concealed entrance, visibly agitated, a rarity that immediately raised alarm. Sheriff Holden had just reported suspicious activity along Willowmere's boundary. A group associated with Ross had attempted to penetrate estate grounds from the eastern perimeter. Holden and his deputies had intercepted the intruders, but Marcus feared Ross's persistence would only escalate. Realizing time was limited, Elijah and Sophia, under Marcus's guidance, swiftly devised further protective measures. Elijah proposed establishing a series of disguised natural barriers around the cavern entrance, strategically planting dense thickets and diverting natural waterways to mask any potential interest points from prying eyes. Marcus immediately began implementing Elijah's directives, orchestrating farmhands who remained oblivious to their deeper purpose. Days passed in careful labor and meticulous planning, yet Ross's presence loomed constantly, his ambitions clear in the whispered rumors circulating town. Marcus and Holden diligently monitored estate borders, maintaining quiet vigilance while Elijah and Sophia solidified their control of Willowmere's fragile ecosystem. Sophia's research yielded groundbreaking insights, affirming that water from the cavern, used cautiously, offered astonishing agricultural and medicinal benefits, yet careless exploitation would quickly deplete its purity. Elijah, burdened yet strengthened by these revelations, quietly vowed to honor their stewardship, not merely protecting but nourishing Willowmere, enhancing the land responsibly, cultivating harmony between necessity and sustainability. Sophia's quiet confidence reinforced his resolve, their partnership deepening naturally through mutual respect, shared purpose, and subtle yet undeniable emotional bonds strengthened daily by shared struggles and triumphs. Yet despite their best efforts, Ross's persistence intensified. Reports surfaced of his associates secretly canvassing local establishments, probing discreetly into family histories and agricultural anomalies. Elijah knew Ross's influence extended dangerously, the developer's desperation indicating he understood more than Elijah had hoped. Marcus's quiet reconnaissance uncovered troubling evidence. Ross possessed partial copies of old family records, possibly obtained from confidential archives long thought secure. Fearing imminent confrontation, Elijah convened discreetly with Evelyn Chambers and Sheriff Holden to assess options. Evelyn swiftly proposed filing immediate protective injunctions against Ross, leveraging obscure land conservation statutes to complicate Ross's efforts legally. Sheriff Holden promised additional surveillance, ensuring Ross's movements remained monitored carefully. Yet Elijah knew these measures offered temporary protection at best, recognizing that permanent solutions required deeper strategies addressing Ross's underlying greed-driven motivations. That evening, under moonlit shadows of Willowmere's ancient oaks, Elijah and Sophia quietly discussed strategies beneath the comforting rustle of leaves overhead. Sophia thoughtfully revealed further research indicating that the microorganism's extraordinary properties depended crucially upon Willowmere's unique environmental conditions, making large-scale extraction effectively impossible outside their natural habitat. Elijah felt relief mingle with concern. While this discovery hindered Ross's commercialization ambitions, it simultaneously increased vulnerability to direct exploitation attempts on Willowmere itself. Marcus approached quietly, presenting them with unsettling news gathered discreetly by Sheriff Holden's deputies. Ross's plans extended beyond simple land acquisition. Documents recovered discreetly suggested intent to bypass legal barriers entirely, resorting potentially to sabotage or destruction should negotiation fail. Elijah and Sophia exchanged anxious glances, recognizing the critical threat this posed to Willowmere's fragile ecosystem. Protecting the source now demanded immediate, decisive actions to preempt Ross's desperation. Resolutely, Elijah, Sophia, Marcus, and Holden swiftly enacted an emergency response plan. Sheriff Holden discreetly mobilized trusted deputies to patrol Willowmere extensively overnight, ensuring heightened security around sensitive areas. Marcus coordinated quietly with Evelyn Chambers, establishing legal pretexts to justify increased protective measures without revealing their underlying purpose. Elijah and Sophia, meanwhile, intensified their documentation and conservation work, safeguarding detailed records off-site, protected from potential sabotage. As dawn broke softly once more over Willowmere, Elijah felt profoundly aware of his role, protector not merely of inherited land, but guardian of something sacred, entrusted carefully through generations. Sophia, quiet yet resolute, moved beside him with equal determination, recognizing clearly the profound consequences of their stewardship. Their connection, once merely ancestral, now resonated deeply, personal bonds strengthened daily by shared purpose and quiet trust. Together beneath the ancient oak, Elijah silently reaffirmed their promise, to protect Willowmere's hidden heart at all costs, ensuring future generations inherited not merely lands but a legacy preserved through courage, wisdom, and sacrifice. Shadows lingered beneath branches above, hinting quietly at threats yet unseen, yet Elijah felt a quiet assurance. Together, bound by purpose stronger than any adversary, they would safeguard Willowmere, sustaining its fragile balance beneath vigilant watchfulness, honoring their sacred trust amid uncertain futures. Autumn gradually settled over Willowmere, casting shades of gold, amber, and crimson across fields and orchards, but its beauty brought little comfort to Elijah and Sophia. The estate, though outwardly calm, hummed beneath its surface with a constant, restless vigilance. Days slipped into weeks filled with subtle preparations, hidden barriers, strategic diversions, and quiet alliances forged discreetly by Marcus and Sheriff Holden's trusted circle. Despite their meticulous care, tension in town escalated. Colton Ross, thwarted repeatedly by legal maneuverings, shifted tactics, employing increasingly aggressive pressure on local authorities. Elijah noticed townspeople speaking in hushed whispers, their eyes wary, cautious even in casual conversations. Ross's influence had woven itself subtly through the community, quietly leveraging old debts, promises of prosperity, or barely veiled threats to coerce loyalty or silence. Marcus discreetly monitored local activities, alerting Elijah to a disturbing pattern. Ross had intensified searches for any documents relating directly to Willowmere's history. His agents appeared frequently at county archives and libraries, searching obsessively for gaps in land titles, old family correspondences, or hidden legal loopholes. Sophia's quiet investigation revealed further troubling developments. Ross's background in biotechnological enterprises implied intentions far beyond mere property acquisition. His true interest lay in exploiting the source itself, its unique biological properties potentially worth millions if synthesized commercially. Elijah, increasingly aware of Ross's determination, accelerated efforts to fortify Willowmere's defenses without raising suspicion. Marcus supervised carefully planned alterations, new fences subtly concealed by dense foliage, roads redirected discreetly to confuse potential intruders, and hidden surveillance equipment installed by Sheriff Holden's trusted deputies. Despite careful precautions, Elijah felt a constant gnawing uncertainty, recognizing clearly that Ross's persistence hinted at deeper knowledge of Willomir's true significance. Sophia, meanwhile, immersed herself further into scientific research, carefully documenting the unique conditions required by the cavern's delicate ecosystem. Her meticulous studies confirmed that attempts to replicate or transplant the microorganisms elsewhere inevitably failed. Willomir's source was uniquely bound to the land, dependent upon subtle environmental factors impossible to recreate artificially. Yet Ross's potential ignorance of this crucial fact posed serious risks. He might still irreversibly damage the ecosystem through reckless attempts to extract its secrets. One afternoon, Marcus appeared unexpectedly in the study, his usually calm demeanor visibly disturbed. Sheriff Holden had urgently summoned them. Ross had gained limited access to older property archives through questionable legal arguments. Elijah and Sophia exchanged anxious glances, realizing immediately the threat this represented. Swiftly, they convened at Holden's office, poring over records hastily retrieved before Ross's agents had fully reviewed them. Within these documents lay unsettling revelations, references to disappearances connected indirectly to the Ashford and Hargrave families over generations, suggesting that knowledge of Willomir's hidden source had long attracted dangerous attention. The most alarming discovery was correspondence indicating that Colton Ross's own grandfather had pursued this same source decades earlier. His ambitions halted only by Samuel Ashford and Marcus Hargrave's combined intervention. History was repeating itself ominously. Ross's motivations were deeply personal, fueled by generations-old resentment now dangerously inflamed. As night descended softly, Elijah, Sophia, Marcus, and Holden regrouped quietly within Willomir's farmhouse, confronting stark realities. Marcus gravely acknowledged that Ross's desperation would soon culminate in direct confrontation. Legal and subtle protections would no longer suffice. Holden quietly suggested preparedness for physical intrusion, indicating willingness to station additional deputies discreetly around critical points on the estate. The conversation shifted inevitably to discussion of contingency plans for protecting the cavern's entrance. Elijah proposed sealing the entrance more permanently with disguised barriers that could prevent discovery even if infiltrators breached outer defenses. Sophia, though hesitant, agreed reluctantly. Temporary restrictions might protect the ecosystem long enough to deter Ross's interest entirely, buying critical time to formulate permanent solutions. Within days, careful preparations were underway, Marcus coordinating quietly with trusted workers unaware of the cavern's true significance. Elijah and Sophia supervised discreet installation of natural-looking stone barriers, concealed beneath layers of carefully planted vegetation designed to mask any artificial interference. Holden's deputies monitored perimeter activities diligently, reporting increased sightings of Ross's associates probing for vulnerabilities around Willomir's boundaries. Despite their vigilance, trouble arrived swiftly. One stormy evening, alarms triggered silently across estate security channels, alerting Elijah immediately. An intrusion detected near the eastern boundary, precisely where Ross's attention had been most intense. Sheriff Holden mobilized instantly, deputies converging discreetly upon the affected area, yet intruders evaded capture, leaving only evidence of meticulous planning behind. Marcus quietly reported troubling details. Tracks indicated thorough reconnaissance, likely orchestrated personally by Ross or his closest associates. Recognizing their escalating vulnerability, Elijah and Sophia intensified preparations further, arranging discreet evacuation plans to temporarily secure critical research and documents off-site. Evelyn Chambers swiftly orchestrated additional legal injunctions, strategically slowing Ross's progress, yet Elijah knew such measures bought only temporary respite. Resolutely, he acknowledged privately to Sophia the inevitability of direct confrontation with Ross, a challenge they would face united, steadfastly determined to protect their heritage at all costs. Days later, a tense message arrived discreetly from Ross himself, delivered ominously by courier, an invitation couched carefully in polite language yet undeniably threatening in undertone. Ross demanded a private meeting to amicably resolve misunderstandings regarding mutual interests in Willowmere lands. Elijah understood immediately the veiled ultimatum. Ross's patience had reached its limit, his willingness for subtlety exhausted. Sophia stood beside Elijah as he reread Ross's message carefully, her expression resolute despite the anxiety lingering subtly in her eyes. Marcus quietly voiced concerns about potential dangers. Ross had proven repeatedly his ruthlessness, but Elijah recognized clearly that refusal would only provoke harsher retaliation. Sheriff Holden promised discreet surveillance, arranging deputies to remain concealed nearby throughout negotiations. The meeting, arranged hastily for neutral ground at a remote farmhouse owned by Holden's family, unfolded tensely. Ross appeared composed yet visibly strained beneath practiced politeness, his eyes revealing dangerous ambition barely restrained beneath careful decorum. Elijah calmly refuted Ross's accusations of impropriety, asserting confidently Willomir's lawful protections. Sophia, unwavering beside him, carefully challenged Ross's veiled threats, emphasizing scientific impossibilities of commercial exploitation, a fact Ross dismissed impatiently, his frustration betraying ignorance and desperation simultaneously. The encounter ended abruptly, Ross departing sharply with thinly veiled hostility, clearly unsatisfied yet temporarily restrained by Holden's vigilant presence. Elijah and Sophia returned cautiously to Willowmere, immediately intensifying defensive measures, sensing clearly Ross's determination would now escalate dangerously. As twilight enveloped Willowmere, Elijah reflected deeply upon these fragile moments of calm, aware their quiet sanctuary stood poised upon the precipice of conflict inevitable and imminent. Sophia approached silently, their shared silence carrying profound acknowledgement of challenges yet unseen, their mutual resolve strengthened irrevocably through trials endured together. Beneath shadows cast by ancient oaks whose roots stretched deeply into earth itself, Elijah and Sophia silently reaffirmed their commitment, guardians dedicated not merely to protecting Willowmere's hidden heart, but to safeguarding future generations against threats persistent and timeless, courageously embracing destinies forged within quiet strength, patience, and unwavering purpose. Winter's first whispers swept gently across Willowmere, casting a delicate veil of frost over fields and orchards, transforming the landscape into a glistening tapestry beneath the pale sun. Yet despite the peaceful facade, beneath the serene beauty lay quiet, constant vigilance. Elijah and Sophia knew that Colton Ross's veiled threats lingered dangerously close, his ambition tempered briefly by their careful defenses but not extinguished. Days shortened, and the air grew crisp, encouraging quiet introspection within the walls of Willowmere. Elijah spent countless hours in Samuel Ashford's study, meticulously reviewing historical documents. Each page illuminated fragments of understanding, pieces of a complicated puzzle, revealing a deeper narrative that tied the Ashfords, Hargraves, and the Ross family in an intricate web spanning generations. Marcus assisted discreetly, drawing upon memories of Samuel's quiet conversations and guarded hints shared during decades of trusted stewardship. Sophia continued her diligent research, carefully cataloging detailed properties of the cavern's unique ecosystem, meticulously documenting microbial interactions within water samples collected from its depths. Her notebooks filled rapidly with careful notes, diagrams, and cautious hypotheses, each discovery deepening her conviction that the source's true value lay precisely in its delicate balance, fragile, irreplaceable, and bound exclusively to the land it inhabited. Despite these quiet triumphs, Elijah and Sophia recognized clearly the relentless threat posed by Ross's greed-driven obsession. Marcus discreetly relayed frequent updates from Sheriff Holden. Ross had withdrawn temporarily from public view, his aggressive overtures replaced now by subtle movements indicating meticulous planning. Reports emerged quietly of Ross recruiting individuals with backgrounds in covert surveillance and sabotage, amplifying Elijah's unease. Aware of increasing risks, Elijah discreetly engaged local allies. Evelyn Chambers continued meticulously fortifying legal protections around Willowmere lands, establishing intricate layers of conservation easements and property covenants strategically designed to thwart Ross's efforts. Sheriff Holden discreetly coordinated increased patrols along estate boundaries, establishing quiet surveillance that reported daily any suspicious activity. One evening, beneath the gentle glow of lamplight in the study, Elijah uncovered another crucial document, hidden carefully within his father's private desk, beneath a false bottom concealed expertly within a drawer. Inside, Elijah found Samuel's handwritten journal, revealing entries chronicling years of discreet conflict against external threats. Each page detailed quiet interventions undertaken jointly with Marcus Hargrave, incidents never publicly recorded, challenges overcome through quiet courage and careful stewardship. A particular entry arrested Elijah's attention, dated several months prior to Samuel's passing. Samuel had written urgently about a confrontation with Ross's father. An altercation that nearly exposed the cavern's location. Samuel expressed fears clearly. He recognized Ross' family's determination spanned generations, describing their pursuit as relentless, driven by obsession more powerful than mere greed. The entry ended abruptly, underscoring Samuel's anxiety for future generations tasked with confronting this perpetual threat. Moved deeply by his father's words, Elijah shared this revelation quietly with Sophia and Marcus. Marcus revealed further details remembered from Samuel's final days, subtle hints that Samuel had hidden critical information elsewhere on the estate, something deliberately concealed from even his closest confidants, awaiting Elijah's discovery. Encouraged by this revelation, Elijah and Sophia, guided carefully by Marcus, intensified their search throughout Willowmere's expansive grounds. Days passed swiftly, their exhaustive search yielding subtle clues but no definitive breakthrough. One afternoon, Marcus led them quietly toward a neglected corner of the estate rarely visited, overgrown gardens once meticulously cultivated by Eleanor Ashford, Elijah's mother. Beneath tangled vines and thick shrubbery lay an old stone garden bench, weathered by time yet strangely significant, drawing Elijah's attention immediately. Guided by instinct, Elijah knelt beside the bench, feeling carefully beneath its moss-covered surface until his fingertips brushed a concealed latch. Carefully, he pressed, hearing the faint click as the hidden compartment beneath the bench opened slowly, revealing a slender metal container sealed tightly against moisture and time. Sophia watched silently, breath held anxiously as Elijah withdrew the container gently, heart quickening with anticipation. Inside lay meticulously wrapped documents, Samuel's handwriting instantly recognizable. Each page detailed precise instructions, descriptions revealing an undiscovered passage connected directly to Willowmere's cavern, an alternative access route carefully concealed generations earlier, known only to select family guardians. Elijah and Sophia exchanged astonished glances, recognizing immediately the implications. This hidden path could allow covert monitoring in defense of the cavern without compromising its primary entrance. Elijah and Sophia, guided discreetly by Marcus's careful supervision, located the hidden passage, disguised expertly within an ancient stone structure nestled subtly near the orchards. Descending carefully, they followed narrow stairs winding downward into shadows, emerging eventually into a small hidden chamber directly overlooking the cavern itself, offering clear vantage points perfect for discreet surveillance. Over the following days, Sheriff Holden's deputies discreetly installed monitoring equipment within the concealed chamber, establishing silent vigilance over Willowmere's fragile secret. Elijah felt quiet relief. Their discovery allowed comprehensive observation and protection without directly disturbing the cavern's delicate balance. Marcus supervised carefully, ensuring secrecy remained uncompromised during installations. Despite these measures, unsettling reports continued arriving from Holden. Ross's efforts intensified. Deputy surveillance uncovered evidence of Ross actively seeking mercenaries skilled in infiltration and extraction, indicating his intentions escalated dangerously beyond legal maneuvering. Elijah recognized clearly that direct confrontation approached rapidly, requiring decisive preparations beyond mere passive defense. Urgently, Elijah and Sophia coordinated quietly with Evelyn Chambers, formulating emergency plans addressing potential scenarios involving hostile intrusion. Marcus discreetly trained select workers, loyal and trusted, to assist in defensive measures should confrontation occur directly at Willowmere. Sheriff Holden established secret lines of rapid communication ensuring swift responses during emergencies. Amidst quiet tensions, Elijah noticed subtle shifts within Sophia herself. Her dedication deepened daily, yet beneath professional composure lay subtle vulnerabilities emerging quietly, heightened by increasing danger. Elijah offered steady reassurance. Silently communicating support through quiet gestures, shared moments reflecting mutual reliance, trust, and understanding strengthening profoundly through adversity. One quiet evening, beneath winter stars illuminating Willowmere's gently frost-covered fields, Elijah stood silently with Sophia beneath the ancient oak, a silent sentinel guarding family secrets spanning centuries. Quietly reflective, Sophia softly acknowledged fears previously unspoken, recognizing clearly the enormity of challenges ahead. Elijah's quiet reassurance resonated deeply. They shared responsibility burdensome yet noble, forging their bond irrevocably beyond mere heritage, strengthened profoundly through shared commitment and quiet courage. Together, beneath shadows cast gently by moonlight filtering through branches overhead, Elijah and Sophia reaffirmed silent promises forged generations earlier, promises carried carefully through time, entrusted solemnly now to their vigilance. Willowmere's hidden heart pulsed quietly beneath their feet, its fragile balance preserved delicately through quiet determination, resilience, and courage unyielding despite threats persistent and timeless. As night enveloped them softly, Elijah sensed profound resolve settle firmly within himself, guardian now fully embracing responsibility entrusted solemnly through generations. Beside him, Sophia's quiet strength resonated deeply, their partnership bound irrevocably by shared destiny, purpose, and unwavering dedication to safeguarding Willowmere for future generations, silently honoring legacy entrusted to their careful stewardship. Winter deepened over Willowmere, blanketing the land in a quiet, crystalline stillness, each frost-laden dawn masking the tension simmering beneath the surface. Elijah and Sophia, alongside Marcus, remained vigilant, tirelessly preparing for inevitable confrontation. They carefully reinforced the estate's defenses, maintaining an outward calm while inwardly steeling themselves against threats increasingly imminent. Sheriff Holden continued discreetly surveilling Ross's activities, relaying unsettling reports confirming that Colton Ross had finalized preparations for a direct assault on Willowmere. Mercenaries and hired technicians had arrived secretly in nearby towns, poised to breach estate boundaries under the pretext of a legally contested environmental assessment. Elijah understood clearly the true intent behind Ross's strategy. His goal was swift, aggressive, and irreversible acquisition of the cavern's secrets, no matter the cost. To counteract this threat, Elijah intensified preparations, collaborating closely with Marcus to ensure the hidden surveillance network functioned flawlessly. Hidden paths were disguised further, entrances secured behind carefully designed natural barriers. Sophia meticulously documented the delicate environmental balance within the cavern, her detailed research reinforcing legal arguments crafted expertly by Evelyn Chambers, arguments intended to delay Ross's advances indefinitely. Yet despite these meticulous safeguards, tension within Willowmere grew palpable. Farmhands, though unaware of the estate's deeper secrets, sensed quietly the increased vigilance permeating daily operations. Marcus discreetly reassured them, skillfully masking the urgency behind subtle alterations to routines. Sheriff Holden's deputies maintained constant, silent patrols along estate perimeters, their presence providing quiet reassurance amidst uncertainty. Late one evening, as twilight settled gently over Willowmere, a sudden, urgent call arrived from Sheriff Holden. Ross had mobilized his forces unexpectedly, intending immediate intrusion under cover of darkness. Elijah reacted instantly, alerting Marcus and Sophia. They moved swiftly, Marcus coordinating quietly with Holden's deputies as Elijah and Sophia secured critical documents and equipment within the manor's hidden chamber. Outside, beneath a sky darkening ominously, Ross's hired personnel approached rapidly, navigating estate boundaries strategically, guided by detailed maps evidently obtained through clandestine means. Marcus, maintaining remarkable calm under pressure, coordinated defensive measures skillfully, guiding deputies discreetly into positions providing strategic advantage. Elijah and Sophia, now poised within their concealed observation chamber overlooking the cavern, anxiously monitored Ross's approach through concealed surveillance equipment. Ross's forces reached Willowmere's perimeter quickly, breaching initial barriers efficiently. Holden's deputies responded decisively, intercepting intruders in coordinated movements designed carefully to disrupt Ross's momentum without exposing Willowmere's true significance. A tense standoff unfolded silently, both sides recognizing the stakes involved, though Ross himself remained conspicuously absent from initial engagements. Elijah observed anxiously from their hidden vantage point, Sophia silently beside him, their breath steady despite anxiety beneath composed exteriors. Marcus relayed quiet updates through secure channels. Holden's deputies had successfully contained initial breaches, though several intruders had evaded capture, now approaching rapidly toward areas dangerously close to the cavern's primary entrance. Alarm surged within Elijah as Ross finally appeared, moving purposefully amidst his remaining personnel, clearly directing them toward the concealed cavern entrance. Elijah understood immediately. Ross possessed precise knowledge of the cavern's general location, though not yet its exact entrance. Sophia recognized danger instantly, urging immediate action to divert attention away from their secret. With swift decision, Elijah instructed Marcus via secure channel, initiating pre-planned diversionary tactics carefully prepared days earlier. Suddenly, distant alarms triggered loudly throughout the estate, temporarily disorienting Ross's intruders, their attention drawn momentarily away from their true objective. Holden's deputies capitalized instantly, apprehending several mercenaries in swift, decisive action, though Ross himself narrowly evaded immediate capture. Yet Ross's determination proved relentless. He regrouped rapidly, pressing forward undeterred. Elijah, recognizing urgency clearly, swiftly moved toward another carefully prepared measure, activating disguised security devices installed around the cavern's perimeter, producing subtle environmental disturbances designed specifically to mislead intruders, obscuring true entrances behind layers of confusion. Ross paused briefly, visibly frustrated by these subtle disruptions, clearly uncertain yet unwilling to retreat. Sophia, observing carefully beside Elijah, suddenly recognized critical insight. Ross's hesitation indicated incomplete information. His understanding of the cavern remained flawed, vulnerable to manipulation. Inspired instantly, Sophia urged Elijah to initiate another carefully planned strategy, projecting carefully falsified data discreetly leaked previously, intended precisely to exploit Ross's ignorance and ambitions. Marcus quickly executed their instructions, carefully transmitting falsified data subtly through intercepted radio frequencies monitored closely by Ross's technicians. Immediately, confusion erupted among Ross's personnel, contradictory information provoking disagreements, disruptions escalating quickly into open arguments among mercenaries whose cooperation had always been tenuous. Holden's deputies swiftly capitalized upon this chaos, detaining several key operatives rapidly, decisively undermining Ross's organizational structure. Finally, under escalating pressure, Ross himself withdrew hastily, retreating toward estate boundaries under cover of darkness. Holden's deputies pursued cautiously yet decisively, forcing Ross's retreat without compromising Willomir's secrets. Marcus quietly reported their success, reassuring Elijah and Sophia, though all remained acutely aware Ross's defeat was temporary at best. His determination ensured continued threats, necessitating relentless vigilance. Emerging cautiously from their concealed observation chamber, Elijah and Sophia regrouped with Marcus beneath gentle moonlight filtering softly through Willomir's ancient oaks. Quietly, Marcus praised Elijah and Sophia's strategic foresight. Acknowledging discreetly their quick thinking had decisively protected Willomir's secrets from immediate danger. Yet Elijah recognized clearly their respite would remain brief. Ross's obsession remained unresolved, dangers lingering persistently despite momentary triumph. Later that evening, Sheriff Holden joined Elijah, Sophia, and Marcus at Willomir's farmhouse, confirming quietly Ross's temporary withdrawal while cautioning that Ross's resources remained considerable. Elijah acknowledged quietly the sheriff's warning, recognizing clearly their struggle remained far from resolved. Sophia spoke softly, suggesting strategic adjustments, careful misinformation further undermining Ross's efforts, reinforced simultaneously by strengthened legal defenses carefully crafted by Evelyn Chambers. Marcus agreed immediately, reinforcing their combined determination to protect Willowmere through vigilance and ingenuity rather than direct confrontation whenever possible. Together, beneath quiet lamplight illuminating ancient portraits silently observing their deliberations, Elijah, Sophia, Marcus, and Sheriff Holden renewed quietly their shared commitment, protectors united by dedication unwavering despite persistent threats. Each recognized clearly the complexities inherent within their roles, yet remained steadfastly resolved, confident their unity offered strength greater than any adversary, courageously confronting uncertainty with wisdom tempered by quiet determination. As night settled once more gently over Willowmere, Elijah stood quietly beside Sophia beneath stars illuminating softly fields now temporarily secure yet perpetually vulnerable. Quietly reflective, he acknowledged silently the burdens entrusted solemnly to their guardianship, heritage preserved carefully through generations, now their responsibility. Sophia's quiet presence resonated deeply, their partnership strengthened profoundly through adversity confronted courageously together. Beneath ancient oaks casting shadows softly beneath moonlight's gentle illumination, Elijah and Sophia reaffirmed silently their commitment, guardians dedicated steadfastly not merely to protecting Willowmere's hidden heart, but preserving quietly its delicate balance entrusted solemnly through generations, safeguarding carefully legacies entrusted to their stewardship, courageously confronting threats persistent and timeless. In the aftermath of Ross's retreat, a fragile tranquility settled over Willowmere, like the soft hush after a storm. Elijah and Sophia moved quietly through the days that followed, methodically reinforcing defenses and carefully monitoring subtle changes across the estate. Marcus, ever vigilant, ensured each task was completed discreetly, masking their preparations beneath the routine rhythm of daily life. Yet beneath the surface calm, a sense of unfinished urgency lingered persistently, a constant reminder that Ross's threat had merely been delayed, not eliminated. Sheriff Holden provided frequent updates on Ross's movements. Colton Ross had withdrawn temporarily to a neighboring town, regrouping discreetly yet visibly agitated by his recent failure. Holden warned Elijah privately that Ross's frustration had only heightened his determination, making him even more dangerous. Elijah understood clearly that their temporary victory had come at the cost of intensifying Ross's resolve. Willowmere's safety depended now more than ever on their relentless vigilance and adaptability. Determined to strengthen their position, Elijah deepened cooperation with Evelyn Chambers, who skillfully fortified legal protections through complex conservation statutes. These protections, strategically layered, created formidable obstacles even Ross's considerable resources would find challenging to overcome. Sophia, meanwhile, intensified her research efforts, carefully documenting the cavern's biological intricacies, hoping precise scientific knowledge would offer additional leverage against future threats. One cold afternoon, amidst the quiet solitude of Willowmere's study, Marcus discreetly delivered unsettling news. Ross had resumed aggressive legal maneuvering, challenging their recent protections directly through higher courts. Evelyn Chambers responded swiftly, confidently countering Ross's claims while warning Elijah that the battle was becoming increasingly public, risking unwanted exposure of Willowmere's carefully concealed secrets. Recognizing the urgency clearly, Elijah and Sophia carefully coordinated new protective measures, meticulously documenting additional environmental justifications supporting the estate's conservation claims. Sophia worked tirelessly, compiling extensive scientific data confirming unequivocally the ecological necessity of preserving Willowmere's lands untouched. Her detailed findings would become crucial evidence in upcoming legal battles, reinforcing Willowmere's protection without revealing the true depth of their secret. Meanwhile, Sheriff Holden reported quietly that Ross had expanded efforts to recruit allies within the community, carefully manipulating local sentiment to isolate the Ashford and Hargrave families. Elijah felt acutely aware of their precarious position, recognizing clearly the need to solidify local alliances without compromising secrecy. With Marcus's discreet guidance, they quietly engaged influential locals whose families had historical ties to Willowmere, subtly reinforcing community support through carefully managed acts of generosity and trust. Despite their tireless efforts, tension heightened abruptly when Marcus intercepted alarming intelligence. Ross had uncovered partial documentation of the hidden passageways beneath Willowmere, evidently retrieved from historical archives overlooked previously. Elijah felt alarm surge sharply. Their carefully hidden defenses were now partially compromised. Immediately, Marcus coordinated swiftly with Holden's deputies, reinforcing surveillance around the concealed chamber, while Elijah and Sophia hastily relocated sensitive documents to off-site secure storage. Evening descended tensely as Marcus discreetly supervised installation of additional physical barriers at the hidden chamber's entrance. Sheriff Holden discreetly warned Elijah of heightened intrusions along Willowmere's perimeter, prompting immediate escalation of estate security measures. Despite their careful preparations, Elijah recognized clearly their vulnerability had increased significantly, understanding now that Ross's persistence would inevitably lead to renewed confrontation. Late that night, as Elijah stood quietly reflecting beside the ancient oak, Sophia approached silently, sensing his anxiety beneath outward composure. Their quiet exchange communicated profound mutual understanding, acknowledging silently the burden carried by their inherited responsibility. Together, they resolved anew their determination to protect Willomir's fragile secrets courageously, whatever trials awaited. Over subsequent days, Elijah, Sophia, and Marcus intensified strategic preparations meticulously, guided discreetly by Sheriff Holden's quiet oversight. Each member of their inner circle worked tirelessly, strengthening legal protections, physical defenses, and community alliances, silently acknowledging that the final confrontation with Ross was drawing inexorably closer. In the midst of these preparations, Sophia discovered unexpectedly within her father's archived journals references to an old meeting place known only as Hargrave's Hollow, hidden deeply within Willomir's northern woods. Intrigued by cryptic descriptions suggesting it had once served as a clandestine gathering point for family guardians in times of crisis, Sophia discreetly alerted Elijah and Marcus, suggesting quietly it might conceal additional crucial information. Guided cautiously by Marcus's expert navigation, Elijah and Sophia ventured discreetly into the dense northern woods, locating eventually the concealed hollow, an ancient clearing obscured expertly by overgrown vegetation. Carefully exploring, they uncovered an old stone circle bearing faded inscriptions, marking subtly matching symbols found previously within the cavern itself. Elijah sensed immediately the hollow's significance. This secluded sanctuary had once hosted private councils convened by their ancestors during critical junctures precisely like the present crisis. Within the stone circle, beneath carefully placed stones, Elijah uncovered another hidden cache, sealed tightly against time. Inside lay carefully preserved documents, letters written by ancestors dating back generations, each bearing urgently conveyed warnings explicitly referencing the Ross family's relentless pursuit of Willomir's secret. Sophia examined these documents anxiously, recognizing immediately their crucial significance. They offered additional powerful historical context supporting current protective measures against Ross's intrusions. Returning swiftly to Willomir's farmhouse, Elijah and Sophia convened discreetly with Marcus and Sheriff Holden, carefully reviewing newly uncovered evidence. Holden immediately recognized its potential strategic value, recommending immediate confidential sharing with Evelyn Chambers, strengthening significantly their legal defenses against Ross's latest assaults. Chambers responded swiftly, expertly incorporating historical evidence into ongoing court proceedings, skillfully reinforcing Willomir's protective measures without compromising secrecy. Despite strengthened defenses, Ross's aggression escalated further, Holden reporting quietly that mercenary operatives associated with Ross had reappeared near town, preparing actively for another attempted intrusion. Elijah recognized clearly confrontation was now inevitable. Careful planning and quiet resilience remained their only effective response. Late that evening, amidst preparations quietly coordinated by Marcus and Sheriff Holden, Elijah stood once more beside the ancient oak, reflecting deeply beneath moonlit shadows cast softly through branches overhead. Sophia joined quietly, their shared silence eloquent, communicating profound mutual understanding of challenges ahead. Quietly, Elijah reaffirmed their commitment. Guardians dedicated steadfastly, resolved courageously to confront impending dangers, protecting Willomir's hidden heart with vigilance unwavering despite threats escalating ominously. Beneath starlit skies softly illuminating fields resting temporarily secure yet forever vulnerable, Elijah felt profoundly aware of the burdens entrusted solemnly through generations. Sophia's quiet strength resonated deeply beside him, their partnership strengthened irrevocably by shared trials endured together, courageously facing uncertainties ahead. Together, beneath ancient branches sheltering them gently, Elijah and Sophia silently renewed promises forged generations earlier, guardians dedicated quietly yet fiercely, entrusted solemnly now with preserving Willomir's delicate legacy. Resolute, prepared, and united, they faced uncertain futures courageously, strengthened profoundly by purpose unyielding, ensuring carefully the balance entrusted faithfully to their stewardship endured steadfastly amidst persistent threats emerging relentlessly from shadows of the past. Late winter brought an eerie calm over Willowmere, the deceptive stillness masking a tension that simmered just below the surface. Elijah, Sophia, and Marcus moved through their days quietly, preparing for the inevitable storm that was rapidly gathering strength. Sheriff Holden's patrols intensified around the estate's boundaries, quietly maintaining vigilance as reports continued arriving. Colton Ross had finished regrouping and was now openly rallying support, determined more fiercely than ever to breach Willowmere's defenses and claim its secrets. Elijah knew clearly that their confrontation with Ross would soon escalate beyond passive defenses. In response, Marcus coordinated meticulously with Holden, refining emergency protocols and quietly drilling trusted workers in discreet defense strategies. Evelyn Chambers carefully constructed a series of powerful legal barriers, deftly using the historical documentation discovered at Hargraves Hollow to bolster their defenses. Yet Elijah understood the sobering reality: Ross's obsession was beyond rational deterrence, and their preparations now had to account for his increasingly reckless desperation. On a frigid, starless evening, Sheriff Holden delivered disturbing news: Ross had openly mobilized an aggressive force, including hired mercenaries, planning an immediate assault upon Willowmere under the pretense of enforcing lawful environmental assessments. Recognizing clearly the urgency, Elijah immediately enacted final defensive measures, discreetly alerting all allies within the community who had pledged support, while Sophia secured critical scientific documentation safely off-site. As darkness enveloped Willowmere, Elijah, Sophia, Marcus, and Holden gathered briefly at the manor, exchanging final preparations quietly beneath the solemn gaze of ancestral portraits lining the walls. Elijah silently acknowledged the gravity of their responsibility, understanding clearly the stakes of protecting Willowmere's sacred source extended beyond mere family legacy. It represented the preservation of something irreplaceable, entrusted solemnly to their guardianship. Outside, beneath the shadowed cover of night, Ross's forces advanced rapidly toward the estate perimeter. Alarms triggered silently, immediately alerting Holden's deputies, who swiftly positioned themselves strategically, prepared to repel the intrusion decisively. Elijah and Sophia retreated quietly to the hidden observation chamber, anxiously monitoring developments through concealed surveillance equipment. Ross's mercenaries breached the outer perimeter swiftly, expertly bypassing initial physical barriers. Holden's deputies responded immediately, engaging intruders decisively yet carefully, aiming to delay rather than provoke direct violence. Yet Ross himself pressed forward relentlessly, visibly desperate, directing his men urgently toward the cavern's general area. Elijah felt anxiety sharply escalate. Ross appeared disturbingly confident, suggesting he possessed deeper knowledge of their defenses than anticipated. Marcus discreetly relayed urgent warnings through secure communication. Intruders had uncovered portions of the disguised defenses around the cavern entrance. Elijah immediately activated additional defensive countermeasures, concealed disruptions designed specifically to mislead intruders, yet Ross's mercenaries adapted swiftly, indicating thorough reconnaissance and strategic preparation. Sophia's quiet urgency intensified as Ross himself finally arrived directly outside the cavern's concealed entrance, guided expertly by precise information clearly leaked or stolen from confidential archives. Elijah watched anxiously as Ross ordered technicians forward, attempting immediately to breach the entrance through advanced cutting equipment. Marcus, understanding urgency clearly, instructed Holden's deputies toward immediate intervention, cautiously yet decisively attempting to halt Ross's advance before irreversible damage occurred. Chaos erupted swiftly, confrontations intensified suddenly, the carefully maintained standoff collapsing into direct conflict beneath shadowed trees and moonless skies. Amid escalating violence, Marcus himself intervened directly, courageously confronting Ross face to face, attempting urgently yet calmly to persuade Ross against irreversible destruction. Ross's response was openly hostile, dismissing Marcus's appeals impatiently, determined to seize Willowmere's secrets by force. Inside the hidden chamber, Elijah felt acutely aware of responsibility pressing heavily upon him. Recognizing clearly the imminent danger, he moved decisively, swiftly instructing Holden's deputies to initiate carefully prepared emergency measures, a coordinated, decisive response aiming explicitly at disabling Ross's mercenaries without causing permanent harm. Sophia monitored anxiously, heart racing as confrontations outside escalated dangerously. In desperation, Ross, sensing inevitable defeat, pressed forward recklessly, activating explosives intended to forcibly breach the concealed cavern entrance. Elijah's breath caught sharply. The resulting explosion violently disrupted Willomir's delicate balance, triggering severe structural instability within surrounding tunnels. The cavern's hidden ecosystem, painstakingly protected, now faced imminent destruction. Reacting instantly, Elijah and Sophia swiftly descended into the cavern itself through the hidden passage, urgently attempting to stabilize the ecosystem. Sophia worked anxiously yet methodically, attempting desperately to protect critical microbial colonies from catastrophic collapse. Elijah assisted frantically, recognizing clearly their fragile environment hung precariously upon their rapid response. Above, Holden's deputies decisively subdued Ross's mercenaries amidst confusion following the blast. Ross himself, stunned briefly yet determined, retreated hurriedly into Willomir's tunnels, desperate now to directly seize samples before complete collapse prevented extraction permanently. Within the cavern, Elijah and Sophia frantically stabilized fragile microbial samples as structural damage intensified around them. Ross suddenly emerged dangerously close, confronting them directly within the collapsing chamber, armed and visibly desperate. Sophia courageously challenged Ross, calmly presenting irrefutable scientific evidence confirming commercial extraction impossible, urging urgently against further destruction. Elijah supported firmly yet quietly, confronting Ross with calm, resolute authority forged through trials endured together. Ross hesitated briefly, visibly conflicted, ambition clashing violently against dawning recognition of irreversible damage inflicted recklessly. Yet desperation swiftly overwhelmed rationality. Ross lunged forward abruptly, attempting forcibly to seize Sophia's meticulously protected samples. Elijah intervened instinctively, physically confronting Ross directly, struggling desperately amidst collapsing debris. Sheriff Holden and Marcus arrived urgently, confronting Ross swiftly, forcing immediate surrender amidst escalating chaos. Together, they quickly evacuated Elijah, Sophia, and Ross as structural integrity deteriorated rapidly, sealing off the cavern entrance decisively behind them, damage tragically irreversible yet contained, preserving partially the ecosystem Sophia had carefully protected. Emerging beneath starlight, Elijah felt profoundly shaken yet quietly resolute. Holden decisively arrested Ross, securely detaining him immediately. Elijah and Sophia exchanged anxious yet grateful glances, recognizing clearly their quiet courage and careful preparations had narrowly preserved Willomir's hidden heart amidst destructive ambitions. Marcus quietly supervised emergency stabilization efforts, skillfully containing damage, directing workers discreetly while Holden's deputies secured remaining mercenaries. Elijah privately mourned damage inflicted upon Willomir's fragile ecosystem yet recognized quietly their decisive actions had prevented total collapse. Sophia's quiet strength resonated deeply beside him, their shared responsibility strengthened profoundly through trials courageously endured together. Late that evening, amidst quiet reflections shared privately beneath the ancient oak whose branches sheltered them gently, Elijah and Sophia silently acknowledged the profound sacrifices entailed by guardianship entrusted solemnly through generations. Quietly reflective, Elijah reaffirmed their commitment, resolving courageously to rebuild carefully what Ross's greed-driven desperation had recklessly damaged. Beneath moonlit shadows cast softly over fields scarred temporarily yet resiliently preserved, Elijah and Sophia renewed quietly their sacred promise, guardians dedicated steadfastly despite trials endured painfully, entrusted solemnly now with restoring carefully Willomir's hidden heart, courageously confronting uncertainties with resolve strengthened profoundly through adversity shared together. Spring arrived gently at Willowmere, casting away winter's chill with quiet warmth, coaxing fresh life from soil still scarred by Ross's intrusion. Elijah, Sophia, and Marcus carefully oversaw restorative efforts, working tirelessly to repair damage inflicted by ambition unchecked. Weeks passed, marked by quiet diligence, as the estate slowly began reclaiming its serene beauty, yet beneath the surface lingered a profound awareness that the events of winter had irrevocably altered their paths. Sheriff Holden's updates provided cautious reassurance. Colton Ross faced multiple criminal charges, effectively neutralizing his immediate threat. Evelyn Chambers expertly managed legal proceedings, confidently reinforcing protections around Willowmere. Yet Elijah understood clearly that Ross's defeat, though significant, marked not an end but rather a new beginning, a call to embrace their inherited roles with renewed resolve, wisdom deepened through trials endured together. Sophia dedicated countless hours meticulously documenting the cavern's altered ecosystem, working quietly to stabilize remaining microbial colonies. Her careful studies revealed gradual signs of recovery, each discovery quietly reaffirming her commitment. Elijah supported steadfastly, collaborating closely as they planned cautiously controlled measures designed explicitly to nurture Willowmere's fragile balance, encouraging careful regeneration without further disturbing its natural integrity. Marcus quietly supervised estate repairs, expertly coordinating restoration efforts beneath the careful facade of routine agricultural maintenance. Workers, sensing quiet urgency yet unaware of its deeper significance, labored diligently beneath Marcus's steady guidance, unknowingly contributing profoundly to Willowmere's gradual healing. Sheriff Holden maintained vigilant patrols, ensuring subtle yet constant protection, deterring residual threats decisively. One quiet afternoon, beneath gentle sunlight filtering softly through the manor's library windows, Elijah uncovered another significant discovery: a carefully preserved letter written years earlier by Samuel Ashford, addressed specifically to him. Its contents, profound yet reassuringly clear, acknowledged openly Samuel's regret for burdens Elijah had inherited unknowingly yet urged confidently his continued stewardship, affirming quietly Samuel's faith that Elijah possessed strength sufficient for trials faced courageously. Moved deeply, Elijah shared privately Samuel's words with Sophia beneath evening shadows cast gently through branches overhead. Sophia quietly affirmed Samuel's sentiment, recognizing clearly Elijah's quiet strength forged profoundly through trials courageously endured together. Their shared reflections reinforced decisively commitments renewed solemnly beneath moonlight illuminating softly Willowmere's recovering fields. Days later, Evelyn Chambers visited personally, bearing welcome news. Court proceedings had concluded decisively, permanently reinforcing legal protections surrounding Willowmere. Ross's incarceration, confirmed firmly, effectively neutralized his threat indefinitely, allowing Elijah and Sophia quiet reassurance amidst uncertainty still lingering subtly beneath calm surfaces. Relieved profoundly yet quietly reflective, Elijah and Sophia silently acknowledged new responsibilities emerging clearly, roles as dedicated guardians entrusted solemnly not merely to protect but actively nourish Willowmere's hidden heart. Marcus quietly affirmed their shared commitment, acknowledging discreetly that Willowmere's future depended fundamentally upon their careful stewardship, informed clearly by wisdom earned painfully through recent trials. Together, Elijah, Sophia, Marcus, and Sheriff Holden coordinated thoughtfully, establishing clearly outlined strategies promoting Willowmere's sustainable development. Sophia's meticulous research guided cautiously controlled use of the cavern's microbial properties, carefully cultivating beneficial agricultural and medicinal applications within strictly regulated guidelines protecting permanently the ecosystem's integrity. Quietly yet confidently, Elijah forged stronger community alliances, subtly involving local farmers directly in sustainable practices promoted carefully by Sophia's research. Marcus coordinated expertly, guiding farmhands discreetly, their combined efforts gradually restoring community trust subtly damaged by Ross's manipulations. Late spring witnessed quietly significant moments, Elijah and Sophia establishing formally the Willowmere Preservation Foundation, dedicated explicitly to protecting permanently the estate's unique ecosystem through careful research, public education, and sustainable development initiatives. Sheriff Holden and Evelyn Chambers joined officially, lending expertise confidently, further reinforcing community support decisively. One gentle evening, beneath twilight skies softly illuminating fields now visibly recovering, Elijah stood quietly reflective beside Sophia beneath the ancient oak, a silent guardian witnessing generations quietly pass. Sophia's quiet strength resonated deeply beside him, their partnership strengthened profoundly by shared commitment reaffirmed courageously amidst trials endured patiently together. Marcus quietly approached, delivering discreetly joyful news. Willomere's cavern ecosystem exhibited unmistakable signs of accelerated recovery, microbial colonies responding favorably to careful stewardship measures initiated cautiously by Sophia's meticulous guidance. Elijah felt profound gratitude surge warmly. Evidence clearly affirmed their patient dedication had decisively protected Willomere's hidden heart despite destructive threats confronted courageously together. Sophia, quietly reflective, softly acknowledged the deeper significance beneath scientific discovery. Willomere's delicate ecosystem symbolized profoundly their inheritance, entrusted solemnly by generations past to stewardship faithfully maintained through quiet courage, dedication, and wisdom tempered decisively by trials endured patiently. Beneath gentle moonlight illuminating softly recovering fields stretching quietly beyond sight, Elijah and Sophia renewed solemnly promises forged silently generations earlier, guardians now decisively dedicated, entrusted profoundly with preserving Willomere's legacy through sustainable stewardship courageously embraced amidst uncertainties faced resolutely together. As summer approached gently, quiet signs emerged clearly across Willomere's carefully restored grounds, fields flourishing subtly, orchards abundant beneath sunlight softly encouraging new growth. Elijah felt profoundly aware of their careful balance maintained quietly, fragile yet resilient, delicate yet enduring. Sophia's quiet reassurance strengthened profoundly beside him, their partnership solidified permanently through trials faced courageously together, shared resolve now clearly evident amidst quietly flourishing lands entrusted solemnly to their guardianship. Together, beneath stars illuminating softly Willomere's gently thriving landscape stretching silently beyond sight, Elijah and Sophia reaffirmed profoundly their commitment, guardians decisively dedicated, entrusted solemnly by generations past with preserving permanently Willomere's hidden heart, courageously confronting uncertainties with quiet strength, patience, and unwavering dedication clearly evident amidst renewed legacy flourishing resiliently beneath skies softly illuminated. Sheltering gently promises silently honored through generations.